Blessings to each and every one of you guys in my country right now. We are celebrating Republic Day. All praise be to the Most High God. Listen, y'all, I mean this when I say it. The Most High God come first. There's no one else. When you start your day, give thanks for being alive, and then ask the Most High to guide you and direct your day. Words from the face of boxing. I am the face of boxing now. I'm the best pound for pound fighter in the world, Terrence Crawford. No diggity, no doubt. Now, yesterday I did a video. A lot of you guys saw it, and in that video I was talking about the prospect, the biggest possible fight as a fight fan in boxing. I wasn't speaking from the context of a boxer or their teams or anything like that. And I got a lot to say concerning this. I'll put it before you guys. So I'm gonna let the people do their talking. I want to say shout out to the different channels that I got these videos from first and foremost. Um, and we gonna go into it. First of all, Goodfellas Sports TV. He says, why doesn't Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez fight each other next? David Benavidez is at 175. He's had like what 3 fights at 175 now, and he's gonna go on to face Anthony Yard next. So Goodfellas Sports TV was like, why don't Canelo and David Benavidez get it on? Maybe at 175 for David Benavidez, WBC interim title. Bivol is the guy. And then again, Canelo probably could face Dimitri Bivol, and try and redeem himself. Who knows what Canelo will do? And David Benavidez he beat Demetrius Andrade. So even if Canelo don't face Demetrius Andrade, if he faces David Benavidez, and let's say he beats David Benavidez, that kind of is like Floyd facing Ricky Hatton when he didn't get to face Costa Tszyu. But Floyd wanted Costa Tszyu. Demetrius Andrade wanted Canelo. Canelo didn't face Demetrius Andrade. So it is what it is. So that might be a way to kind of knock out two birds with one stone. Who knows? It's an idea. Again, I'm with it, man. I'm a fan of boxing. I like good fights. I like big fights. So I'll be with that. Ricky Hatton reflects on his fights with Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. RIP, rest in peace to Ricky Hatton. Such an underrated fighter, man. People don't realize how good he really was. And listen, he need to get the credit he deserved, Of course, he's in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, he died this year, right after the Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez fight. The morning after, he died, and at least was found dead. I don't know when he died, to be honest with you. And we're not sure what the circumstances around that is. Police are excluding foul play, so I have no idea what happened, and I would like to know what happened. Did he commit suicide? Was it an accident, a freak accident that happened with him? Because he was training to have a comeback fight that same year. So I have no idea. The man was encouraging people. The last video, I think, of him being alive was encouraging a young person. So I just don't see Ricky Hatton just taking his life like that. Maybe he had a heart attack or something. A lot of people just dying just like that out of clear blue sky. Ricky Hatton was younger than I am. That's the crazy thing about it. He was 46 years of age. That's the crazy thing about it. So I want to know. There's an investigation ongoing, but I really want to know what happened. What happened to Ricky Hatton? You know what I'm saying? So we got a lot to go through, but I just wanted to put that in there as a side note. Blue Blood Sports Stevie, he came out and he said that Johnny Beck's own trainer, he puts it in quotation marks, his former trainer, that is, Buddy McGirt, says he's not ready for Crawford. He said something about too many flaws. I'll go into that. Don't worry. Oscar De La Hoya on Fight Hub TV, he says that, Canelo might need to get a new trainer. Maybe he doesn't abandon Eddie Reynoso because he's loyal guy. But Oscar De La Hoya, as you will see in the video that is coming up, he's going to recommend certain things for him so he can expand his game. All right, so let's start off with this interview between uh, Bernie the Boxer and Mill City, coach for Mill City. Shout out to Mill City for this video. And I'm just going to do a small clip of it. It's not a whole bunch of it I'm going to do, where Bernie the Boxer, he goes into why he thinks that Terrence Crawford versus David Benavidez is not a good idea. Here we go.
Big question here, obviously. You've seen the Jose Benavidez interview, has a couple questions gearing up to that one, but also Turkey Al-Sheikh saying, hey, can Benavidez make 168 pounds? Lots of people are talking about, that was towards Crawford. Yesterday, Shakur Stevenson did an interview saying that he believes that Terrence Crawford can beat David Benavidez.
And just to that point, Shakur Stevenson, I have the interview, so I'm going to give you little clips of it where Shakur Stevenson talks about it. Actually, let's just go straight to it as we hear. You know what I'm saying? Let's just go straight to that clip. Listen to this.
I ain't gonna lie. They're gonna say I'm... See, this is why I gotta let y'all know, because they're gonna say I'm crazy, but I'm telling the truth. This dude power for me, and I've been saying this for years, it carries through the weight class. So I can see him in the ring with a 175 or a cruiserweight, and if he touched them, I don't care who you are, you're gonna feel that shit, bro. I don't care who the fuck it is. I done seen him in the ring with a heavyweight.
And you fight Benavidez?
I like Benavidez, so I ain't gonna disrespect him.
No, I don't want to see him fight.
I'm gonna say my opinion.
I don't want to see him fight.
My opinion.
Absolutely.
At 168, if Benavidez come down there, I don't think he beats Bud.
Okay,
that's my opinion. People want to say I'm crazy, but
no, the skill is usually because someone's a little bit bigger, right?
Yes, and they think like, okay, you got to be able to take certain punishment that the other guy's putting on you. But I watched Bud when he fought Canelo, and then I watched Benavidez when he fought Caleb Plant. And when I seen it was like Caleb Plant was outboxing him. So if Caleb Plant didn't gas out, Caleb Plant might have beat him that night. But Bud, he don't tire. He come in tremendous condition. And for me, I just think Bud is a legend. So they might say I'm crazy, but people might say they're not gonna make that fight happen. But I don't think it's far fetched.
Like that's the big guy lose. He's fighting at 68. I think he can get.
Yeah, 68 would be ideal because he came from 68.
Big dude. Oh, he came from. So he went out. Now he has to come back down.
Yeah, he would have to come back down.
That'd be
a difference too.
Now, Shakur is thinking the same way I'm thinking, and Shakur already said some things there that I already saw. Which is why I could see Bud beating David Benavidez, and that would be a huge fight. I know Bernie the Boxer is going to say something different, and that's his opinion, and it's not a problem. He's a coach. He knows Bud better than anybody else. But I'm going to tell you this. There's a lot I could show you why I think David Benavidez versus Bud Crawford, given Bud Crawford's dexterity and everything, how he preserved his body and everything, I clearly can see Bud beating David Benavidez, especially if David Benavidez has to make 168. Now, David Benavidez has been at 175 for a minute. So now I heard Jose Benavidez say that he thinks that he says David Benavidez can make 168. So that's interesting. But my point is, I don't give a fuck about size. I don't give a fuck about none of that shit because I know Bud, as Shakur Stevenson was so correctly saying, he got the power to keep David honest. So the question is, can David Benavidez be outboxed? And as Shakur said, this is just one way Bud could beat him. Bud can outbox David Benavidez. I'm telling you right now, he can outbox David Benavidez. And I'm going to give you several different reasons why, but this is what Bernie the Boxer is referring to here when they talk about Shakur Stevenson, not Bernie the Boxer, but Mill City, right? But let me just show you something else here. Let me show you this real quick, right? This is David Benavidez. See what? Man, there's so much to go through here. Okay, this is David Benavidez. Don't get me wrong. David Benavidez could fight his ass off, all right? This is David Benavidez' dimensions, according to BoxRec. He's 6'2". He has a 74.5-inch reach. Okay, that's David Benavidez. So he's long, he's rangy, and he's tall. And he's also big. He has good size. He's a big dude. All right. And we're gonna go into all of this because Bud had an interview. A lot of people had different interviews, and this is why I'm assessing the situation, and I'm going into this in a little bit more detail. And Bernie has his own opinions. Even Bomac has his own opinions. They are the coaches, of course. But when I look at this, I'm telling you, man, this a fight Bud he can win. I'm not saying it's gonna be easy, but I'm saying he can win this fight. But anyway, let me just show you guys something else, right? That's David Benavidez. Now, let me show you Terrence Bud Crawford first. Terrence Bud Crawford. He's shorter than David Benavidez. He's only 5'9". It says he has a 75-inch reach here, but I think he has a 74-inch reach. Maybe he grew a little bit. I don't know. Right? So he and David Benavidez have comparable reach, right? I'm gonna show you something. Just bear with me, okay? And the other thing about Terrence Bud Crawford is he's 37 years of age. David Benavidez, I forgot to show you guys this, so I'm gonna show you now. David Benavidez is 28 years of age. All right. So Bud's almost a decade older than him, right? Actually, his birthday should come in September, so he'll be a decade older than him. He'll be 10 years older than him, okay? All right. So these are the factors that I want you to bear in mind. Plus, David Benavidez will be way heavier than Bud when they go into the ring. But bear in mind what Shakur Stevenson said. Now, Shakur Stevenson brought up Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez for a reason. And let me show you what I'm talking about. Caleb Plant is comparable size and height to David Benavidez. He's 6'1", and he has a 74-inch reach. Okay? Caleb Plant was outboxing David Benavidez. He was having fun with him in the ring. David was getting those body shots in, and he was leading with either hand. Right? So, in a way, the one thing that Shakur is not bringing into play here is that David Benavidez started wearing Caleb down. Now, Caleb was using unnecessary energy in the ring. He was burning unnecessary energy. That will never happen with Terrence Bud Crawford, too. He had a kind of like Caleb had a kind of nervous energy, right, when he was fighting David Benavidez, which also wore him down. So once Caleb was slowed down enough, he had to slug with David Benavidez in the center of the ring. David Benavidez didn't knock out Caleb Plant because David Benavidez really don't have one-punch knockout power. He knock you out with combinations, okay? That don't mean with Terrence should take punches from him. I'm not saying what I'm saying, but I'm just saying. But the point is Caleb outboxed David Benavidez. Now, if you look at Caleb and you look at Terrence Crawford, they got the same kind of reach, right? Caleb's a little taller than Terrence, and so is David Benavidez. They're taller guys. They're bigger guys, right? Caleb's a bigger guy. He's a career super middleweight, right? So them is big dudes, yeah. But Terrence, when it comes to attributes, he kind of nullifies the reach problem with David Benavidez. He don't got the height, but he don't need to have the height. It's about reach, really, right? So at the end of the day, he has comparable reach to David Benavidez. He's a hell of a boxer, and here's the added element nobody's talking about. Terrence Crawford fought David Benavidez's brother, Jose Benavidez. And Jose Benavidez, though not as good as David Benavidez, fights in the same style as David Benavidez. David Benavidez has a lot more wrinkles. And he was 5'10.5" with a 71-inch reach. I think his reach was actually longer. I think he had a longer reach than Terrence Crawford had. So that's not true. These numbers are not exactly correct. I think he's 5'11", and I think he has a 75-inch reach. He actually has a hell of a long reach for a guy like that. He's around Terrence Crawford's age. He's 33 years of age, right? So he's like, 5 years junior to Terrence Crawford. And in that fight, at welterweight, Terrence Crawford knocked out Jose Benavidez. The Benavidez brothers were known as the Terror. They'd go into places and spar people, beat the fuck up. That's how they got their respect. The Durrells versus the Benavidez was always a hell of a thing to see inside of gyms, okay? So Andre Durrell and Anthony Durrell, David Benavidez and Jose Benavidez, these guys dominated gyms, okay? So when Jose Benavidez went up against Terrence Bud Crawford, he was a real threat to Terrence Bud Crawford. And Crawford was outboxing him. And I'm going to say this right now. All of that plays a role in the fight. And all of that makes me believe that there's no way David Benavidez is beating Terrence Crawford if they would ever fight. And the reason why boxers can outbox another boxer who's a pressure fighter has to do with footwork. Now I'm gonna say this: David Benavidez is younger than Canelo, so he has quicker feet than Canelo. He has better footwork than Canelo. He has better foot cardio than Canelo. He's not a better counterpuncher than Canelo. So when people say, "Oh, Canelo versus David Benavidez," we got David Benavidez. I'm gonna say this right now: if Canelo was to fight David Benavidez, that's the kind of fight Canelo likes. That's the kind of fight where Canelo would shine. Believe you me, Canelo versus David Benavidez is a fight that Canelo would love because he ain't got to go looking for David Benavidez, right? And I don't think you guys respect Canelo's game like that. Canelo has been beating guys much bigger than him for two major reasons. While speed-wise, David Benavidez got the speed in his hands, foot-wise, David Benavidez' foot speed don't match up to Canelo's quickness. Canelo is way more explosive and dynamic when it comes to closing distance and landing punches, okay? Terrence Crawford came up from a lower weight class, so he was able to match Canelo's speed. But ain't nobody at 168 that can match Canelo's foot speed when it comes to explosiveness and just explosive, like real rapid closing the distance. Canelo closes the distance real fast. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Yeah, he's heavy-footed, like he plants a lot of his punches, but he's incredibly quick, you know. And I think he's going to have that on David Benavidez. David Benavidez has hell of fast hands, right? He has pretty good footwork. He has pretty good defense, right? He has good defense. I'm telling you right now, Canelo's got explosiveness that you never seen. And Canelo places his punches very well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Canelo was the aggressor and David Benavidez was on the back foot for a lot of that fight. Because he's like a fucking tank, okay? So when people say who would win between Canelo Alvarez and David, I don't even care if Canelo goes up to 175. I still got Canelo. Now, the thing is, David Benavidez knows if you got a good jab with Canelo, you mix up your jabs and stuff really well with Canelo, you could control him somewhat, right? Dimitri Bivol stayed behind the jab and built everything off the jab. So that's the kind of fight David Benavidez will have to fight with Canelo. But even then, if you don't have veteran moves, if you don't have a veteran game, Canelo will destroy you, okay? So I'm just saying that. These are the reasons, some of the reasons why I'm saying Crawford could beat a David Benavidez. I could see that happening. Just like how he beat Jose Benavidez. I could see him beating a David Benavidez. So when his coaches, I mean, they just sprung it on the coaches just like that, right? The David Benavidez thing. So you spring it on Bernie the Boxer. You spring it on Bomac right after the fight. You know, the guys are chilling. And you spring that on them. Of course, initially they're going to say, hell no, right? You remember Crawford when Bill Haney told Crawford, man, you could take Canelo, man. You could take that dude. They was like, hell no, right? But think about it. David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez, as pressure fighters, David Benavidez is a better pressure fighter. He sticks behind his jab and he comes at you, right? He got a really good jab too. But when you think about it, David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez share something in common. They're mostly slow-footed, flat-footed fighters. I'm not saying David Benavidez's feet are slow. I'm not saying that really. What I mean to say is you ain't going to see David Benavidez sticking and moving for 12 rounds. That ain't happening. And in and out, sticking and moving for 12 rounds. That ain't happening with David Benavidez. You're never going to see him do that. You know, the activity that he has with his feet is mostly in pivot work. You know, Whereas Terrence Crawford, I mean, the agility of his feet is exponentially better than David Benavidez and also exponentially better than Canelo Alvarez. When we talk about quick feet, quick hands, we're talking Terrence Crawford. He got it all. Dimitri Bivol, he got it all. Floyd Mayweather, they got it all. You know, you very rarely find, Zab Judah was another one. Pacquiao was another one. You very rarely find fighters who have both and have knockout power. They got serious punching power. Crawford's one of those. He got serious punching power. He got quick feet. He got quick hands. And he got incredible cardio. So he can maintain that for 15 rounds, 20 rounds. He don't get tired. So that is why Shakur Stevenson knows if ever David Benavidez makes a mistake of coming down to 168 to face Terrence Bud Crawford, Crawford will beat him. That's why Shakur knows that. Plus, he has history with his brother, who is a much, much simplified version of David Benavidez. But if Terrence had to face somebody, he beat David Benavidez. I'm telling y'all, as a fan, as a boxing fan, I done already analyzed the situation. I said that Bud winning that. Nobody beats Bud. At 168, Bud is the king of 168, for real. Like, if you bring David Benavidez down there, y'all say he's supposed to be the king of 168, Bud will beat his ass. That's how I already calculated it. I see what I see. Now, of course, Bomac and Bernie the Boxer, they're not going to just look at it like that. They're going to go into detail how to prepare Bud for a fight like that, if it was to come. And Bernie didn't think too highly about it. He didn't like that matchup at all. So let's get back to the video so you can see what I'm talking about, right? So that was Shakur on that. And let me go back to Bernie here. Listen what Bernie had to say. In fact, let me go to Bomac first. This is not it, man. What the fuck? Shout out to Fight Hype for this one, and Fight Hub, and even Aki Sports TV. Shout out to Aki Sports TV for showing the footage. Listen to this.
Turkey talking about it. Turkey heard it after he was like Benavidez. Yeah, Turkey just close look at this money, wondering if Benavidez can make 168. Maybe he has plans or ideas of maybe trying to match up Benavidez and Terrence Crawford. No, play to that fight. Maybe planning on vacating the belts. No, we ain't gonna vacate the belts. We just gonna sit where we need to sit for a minute, and then just like I said, get back in the gym and do our thing.
Right. So Bomac kind of dismissed the fight like, nah, we won't do that fight, right? But the thing about it is, Benavidez is at 175, right? He's at 175. He has Anthony Yard problems. He has to focus on Anthony Yard and make sure he beats Anthony. That's a huge 175-pounder, right? So the real question would be, as Turkey Al-Sheikh so correctly said, could David Benavidez make 168? And this is what Bud Crawford had to say about that.
Cool, you know what I mean? He ain't even at 168. You know, when you look at
Now, that 175, yeah.
and he probably can't even make 168. When you look at these fights, you know, especially coming up, you gotta be realistic. You gotta, you know, say, all right, you know, how big is this dude really is? Because David Benavidez, he can fight his ass off. You know, and I told him that a long time. I told him that when, you know what I mean, before I fought his brother. You know, I said, man, dude, you can fight, dude. You're going to do big things. But the dude going to come in at like 200, 210. You know what I mean? I get why Canelo, you know, was like, I don't need to fight this dude because, you know, he can take a punch. He's going to come in there and, you know, just lay on you and bulldoze you, you know. Right. Canelo just don't want that, you know what I mean, work. But me personally, I believe in my skills and my ability that I can beat anybody.
Right. So that was Terrence Crawford on that. And then here's Terrence Crawford again, talking about that. Again, this is all before the Canelo fight. This is Crawford. He's preparing to fight Canelo, and he's commenting on David Benavidez. Here you go.
Would you ever entertain a fight with the Mexican monster, David Benavidez? It's you on Canelo. It's you on Canelo.
You gotta understand. Like,
I gotta ask you, bro, because I can't, you know?
My thing is, Benavidez is a big dude. You know what I mean? Not to say I won't fight him. I fought his brother. You know what I mean? His brother was big, and I fought him. But, you know what I mean? Benavidez is a big dude. The only reason why I entertain Canelo is because he's not a big dude. Like, he might be thick, you know what I mean? But he's not a big dude. You know what I mean? Like, Benavidez is like 6 foot something. You know what I mean? Then he's gonna come in 190, 200 probably. You know what I mean? Like, you never know. Like, that's a big dude. Like, you know what I mean?
He's skilled, man.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, I might as well go to heavyweight if I fight Benavidez. A lot of people might say, oh, well, we want to see Benavidez, Canelo, but to be real.
You don't want to see that?
Yeah, as a boxing fan, it will be a fight to see. You know, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but I also feel, Terrence, that Canelo's just in a different place, man. I think he's, when we had a little interview with him, we talked about Benavidez. He's like, yeah, I just don't want to. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's almost like he's picking his fights.
I think Benavidez disrespected him to a point where he just don't like him.
Yeah, but
and business wise, he like, I'm not giving you that check.
Right. So it's possible that's what happened. He disrespected Canelo, and because of that, Canelo don't want to fight him. But at the end of the day, I think Canelo would beat David Benavidez. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think Canelo beats David Benavidez. Right. But that's just my opinion, of course. As I said before, Goodfella TV thinks that Canelo Alvarez should face David Benavidez next. And again, I mean, as a fight fan, I don't see anything wrong with that. Like, people say, oh, you want to see Crawford lose or you want to see Canelo lose against David Benavidez. That's because your impression of David Benavidez is that he's this Mexican monster. I don't think he's no fucking monster, okay? I think he's a good fighter. I think he's a solid fighter. But I see flaws in his game. Like, Canelo is a counterpuncher. That's what he does, all right? So is Terrence Crawford. David Benavidez, don't get me wrong, he's a pressure fighter. Yes, he's a counterpuncher as well. Yes, he has a great jab. But I think that there's so much nuance to Canelo's game that if Canelo really does what Canelo does, I think he beats David Benavidez. I don't think David Benavidez is no fucking monster. I think Canelo beats him. I don't know if Canelo and his camp believes that, but skill-wise, I mean, I've seen Canelo chop down trees, man. This dude chops down trees. And the greatest joy in Canelo's life is you coming to get him. He don't got to go find you. He's not frustrated. You're not doing a whole set of things to make you coming to go toe to toe with his ass. Canelo love that. And he thrives off of that. He does really well in those kinds of fights. So I'm not sure why Canelo doesn't want to fight David Benavidez. Like Terrence Crawford said, probably he got disrespected and he said, I'm not giving you no damn fight, which is stupid because you give David Benavidez a big fight like that, you make a whole ton of money. He makes a whole ton of money. I just don't get it, but it is what it is. Now, and 2 Mexican fighters, oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. So let me go back to Bernie the Boxer because he's the last guy I got to talk about here. Yeah, let's go again.
Big question here, obviously. You've seen the Jose Benavidez interview, has a couple questions gearing up to that one, but also Turkey Al-Sheikh saying, hey, can Benavidez make 168 pounds? Lots of people are talking about, that was towards Crawford. Yesterday, Shakur Stevenson did an interview saying that he believes that Terrence Crawford can beat David Benavidez. Tell me, what's your thoughts on Turkey's tweet and the matchup per se? Do you feel like that's something that is, I don't know. You tell me. I mean, Bomac is saying no. Crawford's saying no.
I agree, no. And I want to salute Benavidez for saying
First of all, Crawford didn't say no. Crawford said David Benavidez is a big guy, but if the fight presents itself, I'm gonna do it. The problem with that is David Benavidez is at 175. He's like, it's going to be 4 fights into 175. For him to make 168, as much as Jose Benavidez is saying he can make 168, I don't think so. I think he's acclimatizing to 175, and that's the reason why I think this fight wouldn't happen. But would it be a big fight as a fight fan? Fuck yeah, it'll be the biggest fight you could have in boxing. You're talking about the young uprising superstar versus the established pound for pound face of boxing, fucking cash cow boxing. Fuck yeah. I would love to see that fight. And any fight fan saying no, y'all's kissing some ass. Now, I'm not saying that, okay. I'm saying as a fighter, Bud needs to know. I mean, he moved up so many weight classes, right? And then he's going to be fighting this big dude. As Bud said, he might as well fight at heavyweight. So I get where he's coming from. It's not necessary, right? But as a fight fan, of course we want to see it. It's just like what Bud was talking about with Canelo versus Benavidez. As a fight fan, of course he wants to see that, right? That's a hell of a fight. So yeah, sure. But as a boxer or somebody who's in boxing, who's well off and everything, that's not absolutely necessary for them. And then it's an unnecessary. You remember, Canelo's not no spring chicken, right? He's 35 years old, right? Bud's no spring chicken. He's going to be 38 very soon. So as much, and the training camps that's go into those things is just like so rigorous. You know what I'm saying? So it's, if Bud was to commit to that, it's going to be, no matter what, training camps are going to be hard, but it's going to be something. He going to have to go through hell to make that fight happen. Now, me personally, I look at it as risk versus reward. I see the risk versus the reward as just incredible. It's like stamps Terrence Bud Crawford at the top of Mount Rushmore. He beats David Benavidez as his last fight in boxing. Let's say that's his last hurrah. And he beats David Benavidez and rides off into the sunset. Terrence Bud Crawford will be, bar none, the best ever. He takes Mount Rushmore. He's at the top of Mount Rushmore. He's past Floyd. He's at the top of Mount Rushmore because Floyd, his last fight was against Conor McGregor, and it was a money-making fight, but it wasn't. Bud finishing on that kind of fucking high. That's kind of like Andre Ward, like. You finish on the all-time high. You take out the Mexican monster. Who decided to come down and fight a great fighter. Everybody. David Benavidez can't say shit. He'll have to say, hey, the best fight I ever faced was Terrence Bud Crawford. I could see this fight being won, and Terrence Bud Crawford wins. Terrence Bud Crawford basically is getting his shine, and it would be worth every single penny to see that fight. And again, it's a mind-blowing fight in which the threat, David Benavidez being a threat, is perceived as the guy that could beat Terrence Bud Crawford. And Terrence Crawford had no business facing David Benavidez. Like, the wow factor in this shit would be crazy. It'd be crazier than Canelo versus Bud. But I get where Bernie the boxer is coming from. It's not absolutely necessary to have that fight. And plus, we don't even know if David Benavidez can make the weight. So, and David Benavidez has a fight right now. So it's like we're trying to jump the ship and, make things happen that not even there right now. Right now, David Benavidez is focused on 175, a big motherfucking 175 pounder. So, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you watch at it, it ain't something that right now is a thing. It's not a thing right now, right? So here's Bernie with his take on it, and respect to Bernie the boxer for his take on it. Everybody got a different take, and that's cool.
David for saying no, Crawford is too small. Because Crawford's a small guy, and like you say, Canelo was a smaller guy moving up. David Benavidez has always been a big guy. He never fought at a lighter weight, and he's huge. And I think and that disturbs me about Turkey. That'll piss me off and make me start talking shit about him just for stupid shit like that. Because I was mad at Mayweather when he proposed that, And even Tank said, now what if he loved you or he cared about her, this and that, why would he say that stupid shit? Him fight Benavidez. Come on now. But let's not okay, so then that kind of that pisses me off, and it's almost like he got the money. You know what I'm saying? And basically I can control you with the money, so to speak. You feel me? Like, so now I'm gonna present this to the Benavidez fight. No. Benavidez should be going to fight Bivol and Better Be and these type of guys because he's ready for that type of competition.
Shiraz possibly.
Who you say?
Shiraz possibly.
Okay, yeah, Shiraz, because he had 68 though, right? Shiraz is 68.
Yeah.
Okay,
Tall fella.
But Shiraz, David Benavidez is a two-time world champion. Shiraz, just his biggest win is over Edgar Berlanga, and Berlanga was just a lot of fluff. So let's not,
And a controversial draw with Carlos Adames.
Controversial draw, and that wasn't controversial. Adames won that fight. But you know what I'm saying? Okay, he still hung in there with Carlos Adames, and that was at 160. Moved to 68, beat Berlanga or whatever. But we ain't talking. David Benavidez's levels in against this guy. So David Benavidez is ready for Bivol or better be. He's ready for the upper echelon guys in that weight class, being that he was a 2-time world champion, and he fought Andre, and he fought Morrell, and he beat Bosdick, was a former champion, and the like. So David Benavidez, he about to fight Yardy, who was a champion. Did he beat Kovalev? Who did he beat? Did he end up winning the title?
Right, so Anthony Yardy ain't no champion. He just happened to face Beterbiev and Kovalev. But he's still going to be a problem because he fought bigger guys. So Benavidez is really taking on a serious challenge there. But I just wanted you guys to hear Bernie the Boxer's take on it things. Here's a little comic relief for your ass. Shout out to the channel that did this.
You ready? I'm ready. Remember, you gotta knock this guy out. You got a six-pack. Yeah, get in it. Boxing's about a six-pack. What you gonna do there?
Suavemente, bésame, que quiero sentir tus labios besándome otra vez. Suave, suave, besándome.
All right. So anyway, I thought that was funny as fuck. Yeah, back to what we were saying. So Bernie doesn't think it's a good idea, but of course he hasn't really studied it. He never really thought about it. What he should have done was said, "Hey, looky here. Different people are gonna have different opinions of who Terrence should fight next. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna just let Terrence relax, and we're gonna come up and we're gonna talk to y'all later about what we think is the best move for Terrence Crawford. But right now, we're not saying nothing or nothing. Anything is possible. We're gonna see what's happening. We'll sit down." Instead of Bernie saying all of that about Turkey Al-Sheikh, because Turkey Al-Sheikh is a fan first. He doesn't know the insides of boxing like that. He's a fan, like I am a fan. And obviously, if you say David Benavidez versus Terrence Crawford, bruh, that's a hell of a fucking fight, man. Of course we're gonna want to see that happen. Not at 175, obviously. Terrence Crawford should not move up in weight. He is the king of 168. He's the undisputed champion there. David Benavidez will have to come down. You know what I'm saying? Now, can David Benavidez come down to that weight? That's the question. But that's the biggest fight out there, in my opinion. By the way, here's what Jose Benavidez had to say about Crawford versus Canelo. And this was a prediction.
A lot of people are counting Crawford out. Crawford's he's smart, he knows what he's doing. Canelo, he's not that big of a guy. He obviously weighs more, but you can't take nothing from Crawford. He goes in there to win. Even with him, he adjusts. He's a smart motherfucker. He has a high IQ in boxing, and that's what I feel like. All these fighters that go in there to fight Canelo, they already go in there scared, is what I believe. Which already beats him, So Crawford's gonna go in there to fuck. Not gonna go in there to fucking. So I have it going Crawford, bro. To be honest with you.
That's Jose Benavidez. He knows what Crawford brings to the table. He understands. But having said that, options for Terrence Crawford, options for Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez fighting David Benavidez. I'm saying again, that's a good fight. And the only problem with it is if Canelo is going up to light heavyweight, he's gonna prepare his body for light heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? Because David Benavidez is probably adapted to light heavyweight by now. He's gonna be his fourth fight at light heavyweight. Okay. And David Benavidez has a title. So this is why I'm saying Canelo could go for a title fight. Now they're talking about him facing what's the kid's name? Hamza, whatever. Who knocked out the Puerto Rican kid. I'm gonna say this. Canelo versus that dude is a good fight, but again, it's not a big enough fight. Canelo's a guy that fights big fights. You know what I'm saying? He could fight the Hamza, whatever the guy's name is. You know what I'm saying? Hamza Sharif or whatever his name is. It's whatever. But what I'm saying, though, is I think he should really take on, if he's gone, to show that, the Crawford fight was, a fight that, you guys think, well, maybe against this style, I don't do that great. But maybe I could get better, And maybe includes another trainer in his camp who could help him with his footwork a bit more. I think he could, I think he could do better. You know what I'm saying? Maybe even redeem himself, Now, there are some other options for Terrence Crawford. And we're going to start off by Did I talk about Oscar De La Hoya's breakdown of why Crawford beat Canelo? Let me get into that first.
What fights make sense for Crawford at the moment as well?
Oh, no.
I seriously feel.
No, sorry. Let me try this again. Go.
When he threw a punch, something that surprised me. He threw a punch and it didn't work, and he got caught, and it seemed like he just walked away. Like, walked away from Crawford, he turned around. To me, I took it like I'm just tired. I'm done. Yeah. Andy Garcia said he's mentally tired. Like, it's almost like he's checked out. Would it make sense for him to just retire after this? What else is for him to prove now?
Well, look, I mean, you have to. Look, I'm a fighter, right? And I know exactly what he was feeling and thinking. It's called frustration. You know, when you're facing a Floyd, he got frustrated. When he faced Bivol, he got frustrated, trying to lift him up and body slam him in the ring. When he got hit by Crawford and he took that deep breath, he's frustrated. Don't get me wrong. Canelo facing the right opponent that's going to stay in front of him, that's going to fight, that's going to make it a brawl, Canelo knocks him out. So I'm not saying Canelo's shot or none. No, it's far from it. It's all on the matchmaking. It's all who you put in front of him.
Right? So there you go. Oscar sizing it up perfectly. Listen to some more stuff.
So what fights make sense for Crawford at the moment as well?
I seriously feel that when Crawford beat Canelo, right? He beat the top dog. He beat the man, right? Okay, where do you go from there? He's gonna have a very difficult time dealing with the media, with the fans, because any fighter he chooses to fight next is not gonna be good enough, right? Because he already beat the top dog. There's a good possibility that Crawford will stay at 168, most likely go down to 160. I don't think he's gonna touch 154. I think he'll stay at 160 eventually and try to find the biggest fights possible. The only thing I can tell him or give him advice in is get a new trainer. I can't advise him on retiring or staying in box. That's a very personal decision. But I can say, hey, get a new trainer. You'll do better. A new trainer will teach you different tricks. Will imagine him getting one of the best trainers out there in the world, like Ronnie Shields, who's going to teach you footwork, who's going to teach you speed and movement and not be so heavy on your feet. So imagine with his power and with his reflexes, he still has a chance to fight several more fights with the elites, but he needs a new trainer.
So that's Oscar talking about Canelo there, which is really cool. Now, here's a little report here that talks about from Fight Hook News. Crawford was talking about 4-time undisputed to the buildup of Canelo. They even had a T-shirt saying it. Turkey has Janibek versus Adames planned for 3 of those belts, and the winner getting Lara. So it would be Crawford against the last man standing for undisputed. Crawford chasing legacy. So this is why Crawford was talking about going down to 160 right after the fight. Now remember, Crawford, even though he's become the undisputed 168-pound champion, in a way, he's not really a 168-pound fighter, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if Crawford goes down to 160 and has one fight there with the undisputed champion of 160 and gets all the belts. Now, when Blue Blood Sports TV was talking about, the fact that Janibek's own trainer, Janibek is the unified champion at 160. His own trainer, he's talking about his former trainer, which was Buddy McGirt, says he's not ready for Crawford. Here's the actual clip of Buddy speaking on this issue.
But Terrence right now, but as far as Terrence, anybody gonna beat
Shout
him
out to Mill City.
Nobody, huh?
Anybody beat him, man. I mean,
Even your former student, Janibek?
no, not right now, no. Not right now, no.
Okay. Now, he did talk about wanting to go to 160. Who do you think is the top guy at 160?
Well, Johnny Beck is the top guy at 160, in my opinion. I mean, Johnny Beck's better than all those guys at 160. You know what I mean? But I don't think that he should fight
Better than Lara, better than Adames.
Yeah, he's better than all those guys. But I don't think he should fight Terrence right now.
What makes more sense? Because obviously 60 is just to become a 6th division champion. I get why he's doing it, right? But at the same time, it's just like, what do you think Terrence wants? He wants the top guy? Or does he want the oldest guy? Lara?
I think Terrence, because he's so competitive, that he's going to want to fight the best. Whether he's old or young. I mean, because he's gonna want to fight the best because that's Terrence. I mean, he's very competitive in anything that he does. So
Right.
to beat, they're gonna fight a guy that. It's not gonna sit well with Terrence. I think Terrence, the bigger the challenge, the better he is.
And the only person that looks more attractive is probably the undefeated guy, the guy that doesn't have a draw, the guy that doesn't have any losses.
I mean, Johnny Beck's the best at 160 right now.
He's unified, correct?
So Johnny Beck has WBO and IBF.
Okay.
And he's the best at 160. You know what I mean? But I don't think that right now he'll beat Terrence right now, no.
Okay. So Buddy McGurk straight up says he doesn't think that Johnny Beck would beat Terrence Crawford. And we're talking about Carlos Adames, Johnny Beck, we're talking about Erislandy Lara, right? Sergio Moro said this, and Erislandy Lara actually wants that. He says Crawford can pick up a strap against Erislandy Lara to become a 6th division world champion. And Erislandy Lara is cool with, Erislandy Lara is 42 years old though. He's up in age. But of course, that paycheck would be really good with the cash cow being Terrence Crawford. So, of course, that would be. But as Buddy McGurk said, Terrence ain't gonna want to, he ain't gonna want to face like, a secondary guy out there. He would want to face the very best. And like they said, Johnny Beck is the best out there right now. But Buddy McGurk doesn't think Johnny Beck could beat Terrence Crawford. But then again, none of those guys, I think, could beat Terrence Crawford. That's the truth. Carlos Adames, Erislandy Lara, and Johnny Beck, I don't think none of them will beat Terrence Crawford, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, Terrence would probably go after the best possible fighter there. So once again, just bringing it back full circle for you guys, the face of boxing is Terrence Crawford. Cash cow boxing is Terrence Crawford. Pound for pound number one, the pound for pound king of boxing right now is Terrence Crawford. Y'all gonna have to get used to that. And like I always say in Floyd Zero, nobody beat Floyd, nobody beats Terrence. I don't care who you are. You could be the 210-pound David Benavidez. He not beating Terrence Crawford. You could be, Carlos Adames, Johnny Beck. You could be Virgil Ortiz. You could be what's the kid name? Boots Ennis. These other names floating around. Boots Ennis. Virgil Ortiz. David Benavidez. Carlos Adames. Erislandy Lara. Johnny Beck. All them names floating around because people talking about it. And I'm gonna tell you this: none of them beats Terrence Crawford. At the end of the day, that's just where I see it. I know you can put Terrence Crawford in with anybody from 168 all the way down to 160, right? I don't think he's going down to 154 ever again. But from 168 to 160, nobody beats Terrence Crawford. Once you come in that division, he owns it. And it's just up to time to prove it. Maybe I was listening to Buddy McGurk. He was saying that Terrence probably had one more fight in him before he retires because he really ain't got nothing to prove. He beat the top dog, right? So whatever that one fight is, it could be an undisputed fight at 160. It could be just a title fight at 160 against maybe Johnny Beck, Carlos Adames, or it could be against Erislandy Lara, or it could be a fight against David Benavidez. Benavidez decides to come down to 168, fight Terrence Crawford. That would be a huge fight. I think that's the biggest fight in boxing now, today. I don't think there's anything bigger than that. But once again, it depends on, David Benavidez has to first get past Anthony Yard, and then we don't know if he can lose that weight and get down to that size to face Terrence Crawford. And I don't think Terrence Crawford's team takes that too seriously, even with Turkey Al-Sheikh. I know Bernie the Boxer threw words at Turkey, but I think that was a little premature on Bernie's end, and I don't hold it against Bernie. You don't need to shit talk Turkey Al-Sheikh for that. Turkey's just trying to get the most exciting fights for fans. That's what he's trying to do. It's not he has nothing against Terrence Crawford. He has nothing against David Benavidez. It would be inconvenient for David Benavidez to come down to 168. I think the losing of the weight and that guy being so big, I just don't see him coming down to 168. I think that's the major issue why that fight wouldn't be made. I think it wouldn't be Terrence not wanting to face him. Terrence probably be open to that. Even though that's not in his plans, I think Terrence's plans, as he said, is to go down to 160 and do something down there. But I think it would be that David just can't make the weight. And I think, I don't want to see a weight drain David Benavidez facing Terrence Crawford. That's the honest truth. I want to see the best version of David Benavidez versus Terrence Crawford. I think that time may have passed. And as Bernie the Boxer so correctly said, David should be really focusing on his fight with Anthony Yarde and then trying to become the best in the 175 division. Beat Dimitri Bivol, which he's in line to face after the Anthony Yarde. If he gets past Anthony Yarde, there's going to be a fight with Dimitri Bivol. That would be a hell of a fight. That would be a big fight for David Benavidez, and he wouldn't have to defend it on anybody to make that big fight happen. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I got for you guys. I am what you need. You've been watching my channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Share it with your friends. And you can subscribe to this channel. You can also donate via PayPal if you so wish. This stream was brought to you by L.I.V.E products. L.I.V.E. Live now.